An update on some news. You probably remember the Trump family launched a mobile phone service last week with the promise of a made-in-the-USA smartphone. Well, that wording has been removed from the company's website. It now says the phone will be, quote, brought to life right here in the USA with American hands behind every device. The reason? Well, the CEO of Purism, the only company that currently makes a US smartphone, told us his theory last week.
That phone is actually made by WLTH, so it'll be a Chinese-produced phone, and that's going to become a challenge.
So Purism argues that the design of the Trump T1 smartphone is strikingly similar to the Chinese-made WLTH Revel 7 Pro sold by T-Mobile. For now, it looks like Trump Mobile will have to settle for a phone designed, quote, with American values in mind, rather than being fully USA made.
Even Trump's Made in America phone is made in China. You gotta love it, folks. You gotta love it. It would be so hilarious if it wasn't so unbelievably sad for all of us. We are back here on Straight Out of the Cannon here on WLTH 1370M. That is 92.7 in the FM dial. If you are nasty. I forgot, later on in the show, we are going to pay tribute to one of the great soul singers of the 60s and 70s, a man who passed away on May 13th this week. Clarence Carter, Clarence Carter, Clarence Carter. And yes, the late, great Clarence Carter, we're going to pay tribute to him later on at the end of the show, so please stay tuned for that. As you heard, Donald Trump's Made in America phone is not even made in America, folks. It's not even made here. Nope, not made here. But he lied and said that it was, and then he had to completely double back and claim that that he never said it. You know, which is so symbolic of so much of what Donald Trump does. You know, the Trump administration launched the Trump mobile phone, a phone that costs $499, and an initial, now listen to this, $47.45 a month for the 47 plan. Get it? Because he's both the 47th and the 45th president. So it's 47.45. Now, if he was based, I mean, even if he just had a tad bit of based in him, he would have just sold it for 45.47 since he was the 45th and the 40. But of course, he gonna get that extra $2. Trump gonna get that extra $2. So you're gonna be paying $47.45 a month for the 47 plan. The Trump organization does not manufacture the phone or provide any cell service. The phone itself is yet to be released, and the network will be operated by who else? Liberty Mobile Wireless. Instead, Trump just licenses his name to the deal and then promotes it using his presidential brand while he is in office. Money. Money, money, money. Where we at again?
Money, money.
Yes, money, money, money. So, you know, it's not just the phones either. Last spring, the Trump family opened an exclusive club in Washington called the Executive Branch that charges $500,000 to be a member. Think about that. He just started a club where, and so if they have 10 members, that's $5 million. 20 members, $10 million. Just to be a part of a club that the Trumps, I don't know, I mean, well, to be fair, he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, so I think we have some idea what this club would probably be like. His son, Eric Trump, has gone on to Fox News recently and graciously received congratulations about his own company receiving $24 million in Pentagon contracts. Now, mind you, we just talked about for years Joe Biden with his son, Hunter, who he pardoned for no reason at all, folks, nothing to see here, about a no-show $80,000 job at Burisma Energy in an industry he had never been in before while his father was setting the Ukraine policy as the vice president. We talked about that for years, and rightfully so. But now we have a situation in which this president's son, Eric Trump, is going on Fox News and being congratulated about his own company receiving $24 million of our taxpayer dollars from the Pentagon. The Financial Times have reported that the Trump sons had taken a stake in the in the Kazakh mining company that just won $1.6 billion from the Trump administration. So they put the Trump sons on the board, or I guess it gave them a stake in the company so that they could get a $1.6 billion contract from their father, basically, and his administration, which will ultimately mean our tax dollars. Also, the Air Force is agreeing to buy an undisclosed number of interceptor drones from a company that is also backed by Don Jr. and Eric. Don Jr. is also investing in and advising the gambling and prediction market companies Kalshi and Polymarket. Now, you might remember them because I just talked about them a few weeks ago and how gambling is destroying a whole generation of men in this country. Half of the men in this country have gambling accounts thanks to Polymarket and Kalshi, where they allow you to vote on everything. And not only that, they allow you to rig the game. At one point, there were bets. There were people who were throwing sex toys. I'll just say sex toys on the floor at WNBA games a few years ago. This was a big thing. I don't know, you guys may have missed it, but it was on the news and everything. People would throw a sex toy, won't say what it is, on the floor at WNBA games. Well, the gambling companies started at that point allowing people to bet on what color the sex toys that were being thrown on the floor at WNBA games would be. No joke. No joke. So what would be there to stop you from going and buying a sex toy, or what they used to call marital aid? What would be to stop you from buying a marital aid of a certain color, making a huge bet on the color of said marital aid, and then throwing it on the floor of the WNBA game? And even if you get arrested and you have to bail yourself out of jail, if you make a bet big enough, you, at that point, will be able to make out big. And so that's sort of the corrosive effect that the gambling culture is having. And so, of course, Don Jr. is making bank, investing in and advising these companies that are leading to the destruction of an entire generation of young men in the country, scrambling their brains with prop bets that go even further than Vegas ever did. But it's not just this, folks. The Trumps are basically benefiting from a lot of just blatant quid pro quos. Donald Trump and his Vice President, J.D. Vance, lobbied Congress to exclude them, just them, from a ban on stock trading. And so what did Trump do? He took roughly $50 million for his inaugural fund from organizations facing federal enforcement action, including Bank of America, Capital One, JP Morgan, and Toyota. Each of these companies was facing federal investigations that were either paused or frozen in the wake of said donations. Apple actually donated $1 million to the fund, and then Trump exempted Apple products, which are made in China, from the tariffs. Remember the tariffs against China? There you go. This decision probably saved Apple billions of dollars. Not millions, billions. Jeff Bezos of the Washington Post and the founder of Amazon agreed to finance a promotional film about Donald Trump's wife, the First Lady, Melania Trump, that made her an estimated $30 million. Now, mind you, Jeff Bezos was a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. Or should I say is a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. I know a lot of you guys get mad at me because I complain about liberals on here. But this is why. This is exactly why. Jeff Bezos, when he bought the New York Times, not the New York Times, the Washington Post, forgive me. When he bought the Washington Post, turned them into a very hardcore liberal establishment newspaper that fought to maintain the corporate sellout wing of the Democratic Party's hegemony over the party. When Bernie Sanders was running against Hillary Clinton, Washington Post, they actually planted 16 negative stories about Bernie Sanders in a 48-hour period. They planted so many negative stories about Bernie Sanders that they eventually had to apologize because it was so noticeable that they were trying to rig or influence the election between him and Hillary Clinton. Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, I talk about regularly. Amazon, he made so much money during the first few years of the pandemic. He could have paid every employee of Amazon in America, which was close to 1 million people, $100,000, every single one of them, and been just as rich as he was before the pandemic started. At this time, Amazon workers were peeing in bottles because they weren't able to get bathroom breaks. Amazon workers were passing out from heat stroke. Christian Smalls, who actually beat Amazon in court, we actually did that story. Scott Cannon Radio on YouTube, look it up. Talked about how during COVID, people literally died at Amazon from the company's lack of care for its workers during COVID. People died. But hey, all he did was support Hillary Clinton. When Black Lives Matter happened, when the George Floyd protests and riots happened, Amazon put Black Lives Matter on all their social media accounts, and everything is good. But then as soon as Trump gets into power, what does Bezos do? He gets in bed with the Trumps, because there's not a big difference between liberalism and what the Trumps are. Trump was a liberal. Remember, Trump was a Democrat. He was friends with the Clintons. He was at the Clinton White House 30 times. Chelsea and Ivanka, their children, were best friends growing up. And this is after the Central Park 5 letter, the racist Central Park 5 letter that Trump supposedly wrote, and all the horrible racist things that Trump did. The Democrats still accepted Trump full out. And so it just goes to show you that the idea that the corporate Democrats and the Republicans are that different from each other, that's just nonsense. These people are all in it together. The mainstream Democrats, the mainstream Republicans, there is no real difference. It's not that big of a deal. Elon Musk supported Joe Biden. We forget that. In 2020, he supported Joe Biden. In 2016, he supported Hillary Clinton. It's not a big deal for these billionaires to go from supporting the corporate Democrats to supporting the corporate Republicans. They're all sellouts. They all work for the same people. They all work for the same entities. And so now we have Jeff Bezos, who went around lecturing everybody about Black Lives Matter. Now he's one of Donald Trump's biggest funders and helped his wife make $30 million for a crap documentary that nobody watched. But that's not all, folks. One of the things that has really flown under the radar about the Trump administration is their pardons. Or should I say his pardons? Trump's pardons have basically declared it open season for corruption all across the country. There was a member of the House named Chris Collins, who was the first person in the House to endorse Donald Trump in 2016. He was convicted of insider trading. He sat on a corporate board and tipped off his son to dump shares before non-public news became public. Open and shut case. Well, Trump pardoned him. Duncan Hunter, who was another early Trump supporter, pleaded guilty to using campaign funds for political expenses. He pled guilty. Trump pardoned him anyway. George Santos, the drag queen, remember the drag queen from New York, who brazenly lied about his own biographical information and committed wire fraud, identity theft, and some everything else? Trump actually commuted his sentence and canceled all the remaining fines and restitution payments. And again, Donald Trump saying the quiet part out loud, he said he told Newsmax that he was open to the pardon because Santos was 100% for Trump. That's all it takes. You just have to be 100% for Trump. Todd and Julie Chrisley from the reality TV show. Remember I forgot the Chrisleys. Is it Keeping Up with the Chrisleys or whatever? They were convicted of defrauding banks for $36 million. They were pardoned after their daughter spoke on stage at the Republican National Committee. There you go. So where are the people who are supposed to be enforcing laws about these type of quid pro quos? Who's supposed to be policing the police here? Well, more than a dozen inspector generals have been fired since Donald Trump took office. Those are the independent watchdogs responsible for rooting out fraud, waste, and corruption across the federal government. The Department of Justice has actually issued guidance paring back its Foreign Agents Registration Act enforcement, meaning any foreign influences being prosecuted at a much lower rate than it should be. Trump has also suspended the anti-bribery enforcement law, known as the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, for 4 months, then reinstated a much narrower version of the law with approximately half of the previous bench of prosecutors to enforce it. He also rescinded Joe Biden's ethics branch requirements on his first day in office. The first day in office. He rescinded the branch ethics requirements. The administration really operates with impunity at this point. And so there's really nothing that you can do about it. Let me get to these callers. Hello, caller. What's up?
Well, good evening. Great show as always. I appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you, brother.
Well, I took one word in reckoning, understanding that the dialogue is used for anxiety. It's fear. I mean, threat of fear or possibility, anxiety. So you use the word liberal, and it means like this far polarized thing, right? Polarized thing, liberal. Well, actually, these people are fulfilling a liberal dream within their frame of reference. And so we confuse liberal and conservative, and we got them all kind of mixed up because they play the same tune on the same bar. They just reverse it.
Yep.
And, depends on how they want to, drum out their tune or who they're looking for. I'm just saying. So when we use the word conservative or liberal, I'm conservative. Do I sound good? Nobody out here because I'm trying to abide by the original understanding of the Constitution as I do. We've got amendments, amendment until we got to the 25th. Mm-hmm. So I try to be as legal as I can with my ideas of what's supposed to be or not. And so we got to understand the dialogue, the language, the lexicon they use is not the one that we share commonly. And so we have, words are like symbols. And so we share the symbol. The symbolic is easy to share. So we just gravitate towards the conservative or liberal. Conservative is like taking care of the family. Wait a minute. If you don't have a job, how are you going to take care of your family? If your water is poisoned, how can you take care of your family?
Right.
If the food's so expensive because these guys need more toys and more guns and stuff, well, you can't afford things because of that.
Right.
It's not because not because you're lazy or you don't want to succeed in life.
Right.
But so the liberal word, the conservative word, it's got mystical understanding.
I heard that. Thank you for your call, brother. I got to get to this other call. Thank you for your call. Hello, caller. What's up?
Good evening, young man. How you doing?
It's all good.
What we got to realize is you got a doggone nut in the White House.
Yeah.
All this stuff he's doing, and he can pardon people for doing wrong.
Yep.
Ain't nobody gonna do nothing to him.
Nope.
So what else you think he gonna do? Anything he can and when he can.
Mm-hmm.
You got prices going up and you're getting less.
Right.
Instead of stuff staying like it's supposed to be, and you got to pay extra money for it. What a little old nickel bar candy bar, $1.69 in the
Oh,
store.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You go to these restaurants, burgers are smaller.
Yep.
You remember that Burger King used to take 2 hands to handle a Whopper? When the last time you heard that?
Oh, no, it's been many years since that was the case.
A little baby, 3-year-old baby, grab a burger with his hands like it ain't nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I say, he's doing what he's doing, and you got a whole lot of his type people love it.
Yeah.
Because they all making money.
Yeah.
And like that OJ say, that almighty dollar, it talks. Trump wouldn't care if a lot of people starve to death, as long as he's making his money. Like he told that lady the other day, she's stupid to ask a question like that about what he's doing with the economy. What you gonna do? Get over there, Ukraine or whatever, in Iran or Ukraine? Walk around on the ground and find nuclear weapons? Like they're gonna come show you? Oh, there are a few right here, Trump. We're gonna destroy, and they got stuff here somewhere else. How big of a fool do he think somebody is? And all these millions and billions of dollars they said he's pumping into the service. All these old so-called drones now, everything drone, AI,
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
So how many of those doggone things is they making and sending out over, like you say, I was telling my brother, you be sitting there watching the television, especially a brand new one nowadays, ain't no telling who's sitting there looking at you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what all the data centers are for. But thank you for your call, brother. I got to go to a break.
My bad. Okay.
Yeah. All right, folks. It's after the hour. It's 7:05 in the p.m. here on Friday, May the 15th, 2026. So we got to go to a break. We're going to get some happies. Later on in the show, like I said, we're going to pay tribute to one of the great soul singers, one of the great blues singers of the last 50, 60 years who passed away this week, Clarence Carter. That will be at the end of the show, so please stick around for that. But when we come back, happy. We'll be right back after these here on Straight Outta the Cannon on WLTH.